Hi, everyone. It is June 13th. Welcome to Talk Back, and put your mind on to June 19th, because now for the second year in a row, June 19th is a national holiday celebrating the end of slavery in the United States of America. Although we had the proclamation in 1863, it wasn't until, we're going to find out, until 1865 on June 19th that in Texas, the federal government told the people, guess what? You're liberated, you are free. And so over the years, this holiday has been celebrated locally in the South, other areas, and now through the efforts of people like my guests, especially this man to my right, Boston Ben Hayes, years ago, without realizing how far it would go, he created the flag for Juneteenth, and we'll be showing that flag. So, Ben Hayes, how are you today?
Fine.
Okay, so we had you on the program about a year ago, and we talked about what was happening, and now here we are back again to talk about how, it's not that it's caught on, but how now we're in our second year and how many different celebrations there are around the country, and how you're going to be involved in new ones, and we're going to talk about all of them in a minute. But I also want to introduce the other people that are important for this. Elijah, you're Ben's son, Elijah Hayes. Hi, good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Sheila.
And Elijah, you are the state director of NJOF, the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, right?
Yes, that's right.
So, what do you think about your father and what he's done, what he's wrought, that we've got this because of him?
I think very highly of my dad after all of these years of his thinking outside of the box and, suggesting other people to do the same, to think a little bit different, maybe even get out of their comfort zone. As I was growing up, I thought it was maybe unnecessary, but now I see that there is definitely a positive side to that, and I appreciate it.
Okay, so that's so interesting. So growing up, it's not that you didn't know anything about it. Your dad told you about Juneteenth.
Oh, yes. In regards to Juneteenth, I didn't know anything about it at first, but my dad became a part of the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, and he had regular communications with the late Dr. Myers, who was the founder of the foundation, and I spoke with him on a regular basis, and I became educated on Juneteenth over the years.
So of your generation,
yes,
growing up, I'm sure you knew about the Civil War, and you knew about slavery, and you knew about the Emancipation Proclamation, and Abraham Lincoln, but you didn't know about Juneteenth.
I didn't.
Okay, so isn't it amazing, Ben, that this has come to light, that's something that your own son and his generation didn't know much about. I'm sure Bobby Bray, I'm going to talk to Bobby Brayboy. I'm going to introduce her. You're a young woman. You are the Global City Norwich Director, and you, because of that role, you're involved in going to be involved in the Juneteenth celebrations. When you were growing up, well, growing up, you're still growing up. When you were a little girl, did you know about Juneteenth?
No, actually. We didn't really learn anything about Juneteenth that I can remember until about high school is when we really actually started to learn about it in school. But out in the community, I know the NAACP was doing the work of sharing information, of educating people on Juneteenth. And that's really how I found out about Juneteenth and the importance of that holiday. Otherwise, I may not have ever really known about it until my adult years.
And of your generation, how many people would know about it? You didn't learn about it in school, right?
Exactly.
You did?
No, we didn't until about high school.
Right.
And then it was just like briefly glazed over through, the brief period that we talk about slavery. And they didn't really speak on the importance of why this was the most important day to the Black Americans. And they really pushed Emancipation Proclamation as that was the end of slavery. And then they just kind of briefly stated, oh, and then 2 years later, the Texans, the slaves that were in Texas were actually free. And that really changed my mind when I started really hearing about the true history of Juneteenth and why it's so important.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's just introduce now Sheila Hayes, who's been a guest many times here on different topics. And Sheila is now the first vice president of the Norwich NAACP. And same kind of question, when did the idea of June 19th hit your consciousness? When did you first learn about it or study it?
So for most of us in the city of Norwich, it was Jackie Owens, the former president of the NAACP. She was from Iowa. And when she came to Norwich and got involved, well, she lived in Lebanon, but she got involved in the NAACP in Norwich, she started talking about Juneteenth, and this is around the late 1980s, in 1989.
Really?
And she was talking about it, and we knew very little. We hadn't heard of Juneteenth. A couple years later, my brother ended up moving to Texas. And he then started talking about the significance, because Texas would actually hold a week-long celebrations down there for Juneteenth. So, and he talked about the Emancipation Park that was built in Texas. So it was really between the two of them, Mrs. Owens and my brother, who now lives in Texas, is how I started to have more of an appreciation and learn about Juneteenth. And so I just want to go back to what Bobby was talking about, why when she got to high school, at NFA, why it was even being talked about. It is through the efforts of the Norwich branch NAACP. We were the first city in the state to celebrate it, and by that time the history, the director, and I applaud Karen Cook and the history department with really reaching out to the NAACP to be able to include it as part of the education.
And so, Sheila, when did you meet Ben Hayes?
Ben, when did Jackie introduce us? When Ben came to Norwich.
I remember bumping into you from time to time in different parts of the city. You were moving around, and I was moving around a little bit. And I got involved with the Norwich NAACP with Officer McKinney.
Correct.
And attended a few of the NAACP events. And I arrived in Norwich in 2008. So I found out very quickly that Sheila Hayes was a person that was active and involved with helping people understand that they had rights and privileges, and Sheila is still doing that to her credit.
It's been about 15 years.
Yeah, okay.
People in the city are proud of Sheila Hayes.
Thank you.
So as we talked about on our show last year, you lived in Boston for a long time, Boston Ben, worked in the municipal, did work in the city, right?
Well, I was appointed to the Boston Arson Prevention Commission by Mayor Raymond Flynn.
Right.
I ran for city council 2 different years unsuccessfully, so I know how it feels not to achieve the goal of being elected. But I learned a lot. I found out that I wasn't really equipped or made to be a politician.
Okay, but you're an artist and a creator. So what motivated you to try and design this flag for June 13th?
Well,
I mean 19th, today is June 13th.
yeah. A childhood memory that I had of being down south at my Aunt Anna's farm in the state of Virginia, and my mother's sister. And we were down there one summer, and of course sisters like to talk to each other, and I don't want to say I was eavesdropping, but I was listening. And I heard the word Juneteenth being used in their discussion. And so I said, that's an unusual word. And I just realized lately that, you know, I don't know how the memory works, people who study that subject. But my Aunt Anna had, her husband's name was June.
Really?
So I think that when I heard the name Juneteenth, it just resonated with me, stayed with me. And I kind of like, my memory just said, that's the end of it. I don't need to be concerned about that anymore. So decades later, I'm living in Boston. I've raised a family. I've been involved in community, working against violence and crime. And I overhear another conversation, this time, you know, as an adult, and I hear the word again, Juneteenth. So that's a familiar word, okay? So I realized that where I heard it was when I was a child, probably in the 6th grade. And so I went and looked into what Juneteenth meant and what it was, and then when I saw the significance of it, I thought it was important. I had experienced how to put something together so people can recognize it as a symbol. So I thought that Juneteenth could use a symbol. So I went about trying to get a design. I did some drafts. I went around to community artists, asked them to help me, and it took a while, but finally an artist called me one day, and we met, and they pulled this design that we have today. We pulled it together.
Amazing. So are you amazed at the progress that has happened since the day you started that design?
You could say, Sheila, that I'm amazed. I at times feel like, and I've said it publicly, not only the flag design, but Juneteenth itself is a miracle as being an integral part of our country and our culture. And I believe Juneteenth is going to help bring our country together. It's in its infancy stage, even though it's been around since 1865. Now that it's emerged as a national holiday, we have people all over the country working together, and
But it wouldn't have happened without your design, right?
well,
That was a big part of it.
yeah, and that is due to Dr. Ronald Myers, who was a medical doctor. He's passed away about maybe 3 years ago. 3, 2, something like that.
About 5 years now.
And we still miss him because he was more than just a medical doctor. He was a person that had the vision for Juneteenth. He was like a miracle worker, and he was working with people and talking to people in different states, politicians. He was doing the groundwork, a medical doctor, and you know he was primarily living in the north, Chicago, and he decided to move down to Mississippi. Wow. To work down there and helping people with their health and so forth. But he was persistent in trying to get Juneteenth. At first, he wanted to be observed. That's why we have the name Observance Foundation.
Right.
he wanted to take it one step at a time. And unfortunately, he isn't here to see his mission come
Doesn't
true.
that happen a lot with visionaries and founders, Martin Luther King, others?
Yeah.
They never make it to the mountaintop.
Yeah, it happens like
Yeah,
that.
It happens like that, but they paved the way.
Yes, they
and
did.
you were there, and it's amazing. So before we go further, let's look at we have a slideshow. And here we go. We're just going to go through it because we can give our viewers a little bit of the history. And that's the flag you designed, right? And here it is. Well, we'll show the calendar later. The end of slavery in America, June 19th, 1865. And that's Ben's design. We'll talk more about the design. Let's go to the next slide. So in January 1, 1863, during the Civil War, we know that President Lincoln had the Emancipation Proclamation. But communication wasn't like it is today.
Nope.
So it was 2 years later that the people in Texas were told, hey, guess what? You're free. Okay, go on to the next slide. And then those areas in red are the states in the Union during the Civil War where the Emancipation Proclamation was for. So Texas was included back in 1863, but again, the message didn't get through. Keep going. So it was a military order by General Order Number 3 announced in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, and that's the official order. Keep going. And it was by this Major General Gordon Granger. He issued the order informing the Texas residents that slavery had ended. So he was a very important figure in that. Next. And then we know, as you heard through your mother and your aunt, Ben, that it was in people's minds early on, and so there are examples of Texas 1900. This was a Juneteenth celebration. People would have, they have barbecues and food and other, And so this is just one example of the fact that it was in the people's memory in Texas, and they had these celebrations. Do you know anything about what happened up north? Was that?
Well, like Bobby said, she didn't learn about it until, she was in, what grade?
High school, 9th.
High school?
Yeah.
That was the case in most parts of the North. They didn't know about Juneteenth.
Right.
They didn't know about a lot of things pertaining to the slaves.
Right.
Because that information, right now we're living at a time, I believe, of transition.
Right.
Well, this information needs to be known. The country wants to know it, but there's some people resisting the information being given out to the public.
Yeah.
But
so in 1865, when the war was over, people in the North knew that slavery had ended. I mean, they were well aware of that, but they didn't realize that June 19th meant something important to the black community in the South.
well, a lot of different things happened in the South
Sure. Right.
that didn't happen in the North.
Exactly. All right, let's go on to the slideshow. So let's check. Another example, they would have a band in their celebrations. Go on. Again, 1905, another photograph from Richmond, Virginia, where they were celebrating
My
Juneteenth.
mother's state.
Was that your mother? Was from there, yeah. Next. And then there's a statue of Al Edwards. He was a Texas state representative. He's the first one to sponsor a law to make Juneteenth a state holiday. And Texas was the first state to establish Juneteenth as a holiday. And every year they have a breakfast for him. And here's an example, Juneteenth celebration in Seattle, Washington. So now we're in the North, and it's 1980, so there are communities, even in the North, that are aware of Juneteenth. Go on. Here we are in 2019. I don't know where we are, but you can see they're doing a traditional dance and music, and this is recently. This is before it was established as a federal holiday. Okay, go on. Milwaukee,
Wow.
2019, a big celebration in the city of Milwaukee. Look at that, with food and all kinds of stations and so forth. Next. All right, now this is the one that happened June 17, 2019. President Biden signed the Juneteenth, that can't be 2019, it had to be 2021. President Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. I'll correct that, it's not the 19th. And there he is with other members of Congress. Kamala Harris is to his left, and other Congress
Miss
people.
Opal, she's there
Yeah,
too.
too.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And now this tells about the flag. So the flag, the concept was yours, Ben. You founded the National 14th Celebration Foundation. You created the flag in 1990, was it? What year?
Well, it was around in the 90s,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
1990, with the help of collaborators and Boston-based illustrator Joanne Graff. Yeah,
That's right.
she was your friend.
Lisa G.
Right. Jean. And the star represents Texas, the Lone Star State, but also represents the freedom of African Americans in all 50 states. The colors are red, white, and blue, represent the American flag, a reminder that slaves and their descendants were and are Americans also. The burst around the star is inspired by a nova, a term that astronomers use to mean a new star. This represents a new beginning for African Americans. And the arc across the width of the flag represents a new horizon, the opportunities and promises that lay ahead for Black Americans. Is that how you saw, with your vision, all the aspects of the flag?
I'm telling you, Sheila, you should be doing infomercials.
I think.
They did a good job on that one.
Okay, but that was your.
It came to me gradually, different
Yeah.
aspects. The Nova part came from the Nova television show on PBS.
Oh wow!
I
There was a
found
show,
out
yeah,
what
yeah,
it meant, and I
yeah.
said, I got to have a star representing Texas, and I wanted it to represent the people who were freed, a new people, and ancestors, my ancestors, millions of people's ancestors were here because of our ancestors. And now, we have to work for our future generations.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. So there it is, flying with a June 19th, 1865 date on it. And we're going to see those flags raised in many places all over the country on Monday, June 19th, this coming Monday. And there you are, Ben. I think were you in Philadelphia there?
That's right.
Yeah.
I was in Philadelphia.
They brought you there last year to honor you.
And the woman there beside me, her name is Tamara, and she's a wonderful woman, and she's told me, if you have any African clothing, wear it. And I
beautiful.
forgot I had some clothing that I wore when Nelson Mandela came to Boston. I bought some. So my wife dug it up, and I wore it to Philly.
That's a beautiful outfit. And there you are, putting your signature on the flag?
That's
Is that
right.
what
They
you're
had me
doing?
sign some flags,
Wow.
big ones and some small ones. And
Yeah. True.
Philadelphia is some
Yeah.
city.
And there you are with someone else from the Philadelphia.
Yep. I had to sign those too.
Great. And there, that's just honoring you. It tells the whole story of how you decided to create the flag, and the people of Philadelphia really gave you a great honor by writing up your history and talking about your vision about doing that.
Well, a woman named Iman from New Haven helped me put this bio together, and she's very active in New Haven. We have people all over Connecticut, like Sheila, working for the people, promoting Juneteenth.
Yeah, great. Okay, we've got a few more slides. And this was one, again, the city of Norwich. This was last year, our very first commemoration after it was a holiday, national holiday. And it was directed to you to Ben Haith, Boston Ben, creator of the flag, and that was Friday, June 17th, in the city of Norwich, and it was a lovely celebration.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
flag was raised. Let's see if we have a photo of the flag. Oh, there you are with Congressman Courtney. There was some artwork done by a group in Norwich that had a panel, 4 different panels of artwork, and there it is, one of them showing 1865. And there you are speaking last year, and there's the flag raised.
That's right. And you were there, Sheila.
I was there last year, and it was a wonderful occasion to see you. And there you are with Elijah
Yeah, that's him.
again, and both of you. And again, just here's our guest. There's Sheila with her NAACP medallion, and then I think the last slide is, another one of Sheila with the artwork, the street art that she has promoted. And then here we are, Bobby, Brayboy, Global City, Norwich. We're all here.
I
Great.
seen that
And,
Global City.
This is interesting. Did you ever hear of Ralph Ellison? He was this is the last slide. He was a very famous author, and he wrote The Invisible Man,
I
the
heard of
black
him.
author, and he wrote this novel was published after his death. It was thousands of pages, and somebody put it together. And one of the things that was in the book that I thought was interesting is the Hebrew children have their Passover so that they can keep their history alive in their memories. So let us take one more page from their book, and on this great day of deliverance, on this day of emancipation, let us tell ourselves our story. And that's a quote from that book called, I just took it out of the library, it's a novel, Juneteenth, by Ralph Ellison. You should take a
Yeah, I'm
look
going
at
to
it.
have to go back on mine and find them.
You're going to find it.
Yeah.
You should. So let's talk to Bobby. What does Global City Norwich do, and how are you going to be involved in the Juneteenth celebration this year?
Global City Norwich is a program through Norwich Community Development Corporation, it fosters economic development. And the program Global City specifically focuses on the variety of cultures here in Norwich. So we host different festivals and events to celebrate their traditions, and we also help them build up their businesses or help entrepreneurs with training and mentorship resources, things like that. And we are joining the NAACP and with the raising of the Juneteenth flag this year. We also did it last year, but I wasn't in the position I am now. This is a new position for me. So it's an honor to be able to stand aside the NAACP and raise the Juneteenth flag here in my hometown where I was born and raised as part of Global City. So I'm very excited to be a part of this program.
Where were you born?
Right here in Norwich.
Oh, in Norwich, your hometown. That's what I thought. Yeah. Great. Okay, so Sheila, how is the NAACP participating in this year's celebration?
Right. So what happened when COVID hit? We had always done large festivals here in the city, a parade, festivals down on the marina. Then just before the year of COVID, we had teamed up with Global Cities. Actually, 2019 was the first year we had teamed up with Global Cities to put on Juneteenth. And then COVID hit, and we were forced to cancel festivals. But we were able to talk to the city and talk to Global Cities at that time to say we still had to have a commemoration program. As you say, that talked about how people who actually start the movement, and here in the city of Norwich, it was Jackie Owen. She had passed away. And so it was important to keep her legacy alive in the city by having some type of ceremony. So we created the flag raising ceremony and a speaking program and continue to recognize Lieutenant Daniel Jenkins as he was our first Grand Marshal. Some people are under the impression that he started Juneteenth in Norwich. He did not. He was honored to be the Grand Marshal of the parade. He was the highest ranking black official in the police department, and he was part of the NAACP. And so upon his passing, Jackie had created the Daniel Jenkins Memorial Award. So that award was important to recognize Juneteenth and Lieutenant Danny Jenkins at the same time. So this will be our third year, and that is what we're going to continue to do, at the very least, is create the opportunity to celebrate this national and now state holiday through the flag raising. And thanks to Bobby's effort, she was able to get a permanent flagpole put on the grounds of City Hall. So now we can have a flagpole. We don't.
So it's not going to be in the street.
It's
like
not
it
going to
was
be in the
last year.
street.
That's
It's on the
great.
grounds of City Hall, and we will continue to do the commemoration ceremony, which for the NAACP, what it allows for other opportunities for other groups to come together. So there are more events that are going to happen. Saturday night will be a cocktail party and a paint party in celebration, and that will be held at Foundry. I know it's Dr. G and James Hodge. He's an artist, so they wanted to provide something for Saturday evening to celebrate Juneteenth. And then on Monday, there's a big project we have. The youth have a mural project that they're going to be kicking off around social and environmental justice over in Greenville at the playground. And so we're going to have a program with the youth to design a public art mural around social justice for the Greenville playground. So there's a lot of smaller activities going on, not one big festival. We'll wait and see whether it's something we can build
So
back
on
to.
Monday at City Hall area,
No, Friday, the 16th.
Friday the 16th.
16th, we'll have the flag raising.
Oh, Friday, not Monday.
Not Monday. Well, if you want me to walk down that. Okay, so when we were planning this, that in 2021, Juneteenth was made a national holiday. Then last May, the governor of the state of Connecticut, the state legislators passed it, governor signed it into law, making Juneteenth a state holiday starting this year. So when we were planning it, we thought that Monday in the city of Norwich would be recognized as a holiday and that City Hall would be closed. Lo and behold, at the beginning of this month, we were informed that the city did not declare it as a holiday, and City Hall is open.
Oh.
But we had already been planning it for Friday. So that is an initiative that we are going to have to engage as a community with our elected and appointed officials in the city to find out what it's going to take for the city of Norwich to recognize this.
But even if it is, City Hall is open, couldn't you still have had the flag raising that day?
Not if it's not open. If City Hall is not open, because you have to have accommodations when you have a gathering in the city.
Oh.
So that's why we don't do it on the weekends, because City Hall is not open. So you have to have certain accommodations in the city when you have a large gathering of people.
So how is it being publicized that it will be on Friday the 16th? What time?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. How are you
Outside.
publicizing it?
So I know it has been has gone out to all the news outlets that cover the area. We've been telling people on Facebook. We now will have we have had flyers, social media, has been going out, and that's how we've been telling people that it's Friday, June 16th at 11 p.m. in the David Ruggles.
11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Yeah.
in the David Ruggles Memorial Courtyard.
At City, and with a special new flag pole.
Correct.
Permanent flag pole for Juneteenth. That's great. Any other comments that you have, Bobby, about what's going to happen on Friday?
Not necessarily any specific comments. I'm just really excited to be a part of this because it shows, well, we're hoping that this will be the start of something that grows. As Sheila said, that we weren't able to have a festival, but we're doing smaller events. But we're hoping that this will be the start of something that can explode into something much larger, because I think a lot of people miss the fact that Juneteenth is really important to especially Black Americans. and that it should be celebrated with the same level of excitement, care, and tradition that every other holiday is celebrated with.
Well, let me ask, in the Norwich City schools, is it being taught? I mean, I would assume that if a holiday's coming up and you're in school in the beginning of June, your history teachers, your social studies teachers would be talking about it. Are we expecting kids to show up who are?
Yes, there will be youth. Youth have been invited. They are part of, they will be performing that day. But if you ask us if it's taught down in the elementary school, because the legislation that was passed, I believe it was 3 years ago now, it only covers high school, where Black history and Puerto Rican history and indigenous people's history has to be taught, be made available for students to take in the high school level. Would I like to believe that, yes, that in some of our public schools, that there are teachers that, you know, who are obviously aware of the day. We did a program with Teachers Memorial Magnet School back during Black History Month, so I know that that is one of the schools in Norwich Public Schools that definitely does talk about the cultural, the various global cultures and ethnicities, and so Juneteenth would definitely be, you know, talked about there. How far down is, you know, it really depends on how much a teacher knows about the holiday themselves or the significance of.
How about the churches in Norwich? Are the pastors, the ministers, the priests, are they talking about it?
I can tell you the Black churches are talking about it.
Yes.
I can't tell you about any other church, but.
Yeah. All right, I want to go around. So one of the questions Ben asked me on a paper he gave me a while ago was, it's very important, why does Juneteenth matter? You start, Ben. Why does it matter?
Well, that question makes me immediately think of our ancestors. Juneteenth has made me realize how important they were while they were enslaved. And a lot of what we're learning is a lot of what was kept from us. They were our people, even though they weren't considered American citizens. In reality, they were. They helped build this country's economy through the work, the labor that they put into this country in the early days. Our ancestors were here, and we have to work to make sure that their existence was important, and it is important. And I believe they came here even though they were abused. It's a purpose for this country to realize what humanity should be like. So I believe Juneteenth and people like Bobby and Sheila Hayes, they're working to bring about humanity as a result of what happened to our ancestors, even our most recent ancestors, our relatives who have recently passed. They suffered a lot, just like the Jewish people. I listen to a lot of Jewish programming, and I feel the same way about them as my ancestors. So that's what Juneteenth means to me.
Do you remember when Michelle Obama gave a speech and she said, I live in a house that was built by slaves, the White House?
Yep.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
That they were there building it.
Yep.
Right. Elijah,
Yes.
why is Juneteenth, why does Juneteenth matter?
I think Juneteenth is going to help bring healing to this country. And I think it's going to continue to be well received, especially by the younger generation. I noticed an immediate positive reaction when the holiday was passed. I did have some prior education on Juneteenth, so maybe I was keen to when people were talking about it, and I just believe that it's going to help bring healing to this country.
Okay. Bobby, why does Juneteenth matter?
Juneteenth matters because I think so often it gets convoluted that African American history is slavery, and that's not true. Before we were slaves, we had a history, and after slavery, we have a history. So Juneteenth is really a signifier that it's not a period at the end of slavery. It's actually a comma or a semicolon. It's continuing on. And I think that message needs to be shared and recognized.
Okay. And Sheila, why does Juneteenth matter?
So if we can take the flag?
We're going to do this?
Yes,
I was
we're
going to
gonna
do that at the end, but we
Well,
can do it
okay.
now. We
Well,
can do it.
okay.
Let's all. Let's. here you
Because there's
go.
a message, right, there's a
That's all.
message, there's a message at the end that talks about freedom and
Celebrating freedom since 1865, fighting for justice and equality every day.
And that's
Beautiful.
right. That's what Juneteenth has made us has become more prominent for us to understand what Juneteenth really is about, our freedom. But I just want to add in, only because I was blessed to be part of the Discovering Amistad and Juneteenth ceremony this past weekend. But let us not forget what the fight for freedom. And when you think about the 53 captive Africans who on the Amistad and how they had to fight for their freedom, not just to get on the ship, but once they got here in Connecticut, okay, in that fight for freedom and what that meant, that to me makes Juneteenth even more important to understand. You put, I don't want to hide your faces.
That's okay.
The significance of Juneteenth, that people were still enslaved for 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Think about how long it took the 53 captive Africans on the Amistad to get their freedom. Okay, it's significant. Over 2 years, 2.5, 3 years.
Well, how many centuries did it take for Black Americans to
right.
get some equality?
But I'm just saying, but when you
Yes.
stop and really think about it, and you say, why is it important? It's important because it's about our history. It's
Right.
about every person's history who's on the American continents. The North American and South American
Right.
continents.
So now I'm going to ask Ben about something very exciting that's going to happen in Boston on June 18th, Sunday, after the day of commemoration here on the 18th. What's going to happen in Boston?
Well, Sheila, I've been invited to Fenway Park in Boston,
Wow.
where I used to go to watch some Red Sox games. But they want me there on the 18th to be a part of the Juneteenth ceremony. They're going to raise the flag as they have the last 2 years, I believe, the Juneteenth flag. And then they asked me, believe it or not, to throw out the first pitch.
Oh my gosh, what an honor that is. You
And
must be
I've seen a lot of ceremonies like that, and I said, well, it really didn't sink in until I talked to them this week on Zoom, and it's still unreal. So when I get into Fenway Park, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Are you working with Elijah? Are you catching his pitches so he'll make
We
a
have to
good
do
pitch?
some of that this
What?
week. We have to do
You're
some
gonna
of
do
that
that
Yeah,
this
he
week.
bought me a new Major League ball.
Oh, that is amazing. So we all have to watch that, and it's going to be on TV, of course, and it's a Sunday night game.
That's right.
Probably going to be the game of the week on TV, you know.
With
those
the
sport-
Yankees.
With the Yankees. How much better is that? Now, are you a Yankee fan or a Red Sox fan?
Well, I've learned to like the Yankees.
Oh, okay.
At first, they used to beat up on my Brooklyn Dodgers.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So that is a wonderful, wonderful honor, and we'll all be watching. And how many people are going to the park with you?
Four
Four?
Yes.
Four
Oh.
people. But his son, 3 years
Yeah.
old,
Oh,
Daniel.
all the
Yeah,
generations.
he's a baseball guy too, the little guy.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. So we're all going to watch for that. And I just want to ask one more
Sure.
question about, okay, so when it's a holiday, so there are public commemorations, but then we go into our homes and we have a feast or that. So I'm going to ask each of you, what are you going to be doing on June 19th, which is the holiday, with your family or your friends? Or what are you going to be doing?
Well, okay, so I'm going to be on the Greenville playground, working with youth to
Okay.
design a social justice.
Very important. Very good.
Yeah.
And are you going to have a commemoration dinner or a lunch or something?
Probably afterwards we'll go some big. So that food. When you talk about the food, and one of the things I found out, and Ben may be able to share a little more, is that the color red. And so when you eat food, the color red is the most dominant color of food that you should be eating on Juneteenth Day. The
And
color
what is
red.
that? And so what do they have? What do they do for the red? What
So
do they use?
it's red. It's anything that's red kidney beans, red
Oh, okay.
beets, red soda pop. I mean, Jackie used to talk about red soda pop.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, all the time. And so it's so you're supposed to embrace Juneteenth by festing in food and drink
Oh,
in the
that's
color
exciting.
red.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. But the important thing is that
Exactly.
you're doing Juneteenth service
Right.
with kids
Kids,
on that
right,
holiday.
right,
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And what are you going to be doing on June 19th? We know what you're going to be doing on the 16th, with the flag raising ceremony. What are you doing on the holiday, the 19th?
On the holiday, I will also be with the kids, but there is also a Juneteenth cookout happening downtown Norwich.
Oh,
And this is being put on by Three Sisters Beauty Barn Boutique, located on Franklin Street. So it is open to the public, and the food will be free.
so it will be a cookout, did you call it? A
Yes.
Cookout, that's wonderful.
From 12 to 7.
Okay, great. So that's a good thing. What are you going to do on June 19th?
So on June 19th, I'm going to be going back to my old neighborhood that I grew up in Roxbury, which is a neighborhood in Boston. There's going to be a flag raising there next to my old middle school, where the first Juneteenth flag raising was. And then there's going to be a parade to the National Center for African American Artists, also in Roxbury. And there's going to be a signature event there. My father and I are both going to
Oh, so that's
participate
wonderful.
in
So was
that.
Roxbury the first place where the Juneteenth
Yeah.
flag was raised?
Yeah, we were been invited to go there. They've been raising the flag, and they invited us this year.
That's
So I-
wonderful. So that's what you'll be doing. That's great. And then what are you going to eat?
Good question. I have to find out.
Okay, that's terrific. So let's summarize. Friday the 16th, 11 a.m. in Norwich for the flag raising. Monday the 19th, programs with kids that Sheila and Bobby are going to be involved with. The 19th is the day that Ben and Elijah will be in Roxbury, Massachusetts for their flag raising ceremony. Will you be honored? Are they going to give you the honor of raising the flag? I'm sure.
I don't know, but they want me to speak
Okay,
and
wonderful.
be in the parade.
Okay, fabulous. Oh, I wanted to show everybody this calendar that Ben has let me keep. I'm so happy to have it. It's the 2023 calendar, and I hope it's available that everybody can get
It
one.
is.
Yeah.
They can contact njof.com.
All right. The National
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth Observance Foundation. Okay, excellent. So this is wonderful. And don't forget, Sunday night, wherever your cable station tells you,
Oh,
the Boston Red Sox are playing the Yankees, and Ben Haith, the founder, the creator of the Juneteenth flag, is going to throw out the first pitch. You realize what an honor that is.
Yeah, I've been finding out at the senior center, Rose City Senior Center. They found out, but I tell you, it's overwhelming.
What does it feel like to be a celebrity?
I'm going to write about it.
Okay. Oh, you'll come back and tell us. We'll talk. It'll take a lot of video and photographs.
Okay.
I want that video of your pitch. I want to see how you do.
It's been an experience, I tell you that.
Yeah. What's the most surprising thing that you have found in all of these years since you started working on this? Anything surprised you?
Well, I'm starting to look at what has emerged in this country right now, the various cultures and the different dynamics to this country. It's like sometimes I feel I'm living in a dream, living in this country.
A good dream or a bad dream?
I can't say.
Because we've got some bad things going on too.
Yeah, we got some bad things, and we've had them in the past.
Yeah.
But we're still dealing with them.
Right. We don't seem to be able to get over some of the hatred, some of the racism. Now we've got the white supremacy going on.
I think we're at a crossroad.
Okay.
We've been in crossroads before, and this is one.
This is yeah. But I mean, the strength of, like, with Bobby's doing, all the different groups coming together to
Yeah.
work together. And then on the other side, you have the groups that they don't want us to work together. They want to pull us apart. They don't like the varieties of people, right?
Yeah, they won't live by the standards that this country espouses.
And instead of Juneteenth being something to bring us together that you hope would happen, in some communities, it's tearing us apart. So we got a lot of work to do in this country. What's your next project after you finish creating this flag?
Let's see what I'm going to do. Something I'm going to do in July. I can't think of what it is right now.
Yeah, I know you've been writing a lot about gun violence and that problem.
Oh
That's
yeah, I stay on anti-violence.
That's very important
Yeah.
to you, as it should be. So, you know, sometimes we make progress and we do better, but there's always a kind of a fallback, going back a couple of steps, that we keep having to catch up again. So I hope you're right. If we're at a crossroads, maybe we'll take the right road this time.
But I believe, and I know my son believes as well, and Sheila and Bowie probably feel the same way about our Creator being on our side.
Okay.
And that's important. That's what has brought us this far.
Okay, I hope you're right. All right,
Yes.
everyone. So I hope that you will learn about Juneteenth, know our history, celebrate it, celebrate the beauty of the diversity of all the different groups in the community that Bobby and Sheila are working on, and have a good time on June 19th. Eat something red, okay? See you next time on Talk Back. Bye.